The decision by the Trump administration to shut down the U.S. Agency for International Development, USAID, has not only shocked the international community, but it has also sent ripples through various sectors of global development, humanitarian aid, and foreign policy. To understand the gravity of this decision, we must first delve into the history of USAID, its long-standing role in the global arena, and the far-reaching implications this closure could have on the United States' relationships, foreign aid programs, and its ability to project soft power globally. USAID was founded in 1961 by President John F. Kennedy with a mission to assist developing nations in their efforts to combat poverty, improve health, bolster education systems, and promote economic development. This initiative became a cornerstone of U.S. foreign policy and has played an instrumental role in uplifting millions of people across the globe. With over $30 billion in annual spending and operations in more than 100 countries, USAID's efforts span from disaster relief and combating infectious diseases to helping lift people out of extreme poverty and providing opportunities for education and vocational training. The agency has been responsible for building infrastructure, supporting democratic institutions, and mitigating the impacts of conflict, which have all contributed to creating a more stable and prosperous world, especially in developing nations. For decades, USAID has served as the U.S. government's principal arm for foreign assistance, spearheading some of the most successful programs in history, such as the President's Emergency Plan for AIDS Relief, PEPFAR, which has provided life-saving antiretroviral treatment to millions of people in sub-Saharan Africa, including South Africa. By working in partnership with both local governments and international organizations, USAID has strengthened healthcare systems, improved agricultural practices, provided disaster response, and played a key role in promoting democratic governance worldwide. The shutdown of USAID, announced by the Trump administration, represents a paradigm shift in U.S. foreign policy that could have devastating consequences for these ongoing development efforts. On one level, it is a move aimed at reducing U.S. government spending on foreign aid and reassessing the efficiency of these programs. Supporters of this action argue that it is a necessary step to curtail bureaucratic inefficiency and redirect resources towards priorities deemed more in line with America's immediate national interests, including defense spending, infrastructure, and border security. The Trump administration has expressed concern that foreign aid often does not produce sufficient outcomes, and they argue that merging USAID with the U.S. Department of State will create a more streamlined and efficient approach to foreign assistance. However, critics of this decision argue that it represents a fundamental retreat from America's long-standing commitment to global leadership in development and humanitarian efforts. The closure of USAID, they argue, could lead to a vacuum in international aid, particularly in countries that rely heavily on U.S. assistance for basic services like healthcare, education, and clean water. Without USAID's resources, nations, especially those in the global south, may find it much harder to achieve key development goals, such as eradicating hunger, reducing poverty, improving maternal health, and providing life-saving treatments for diseases like HIV/AIDS, malaria, and tuberculosis. The consequences of this decision are particularly severe for countries like South Africa, where USAID has been a vital partner in development efforts for decades. The agency has been instrumental in funding programs aimed at tackling South Africa's HIV/AIDS epidemic, which has been one of the country's most pressing health crises. USAID-funded initiatives have provided vital funding for prevention programs, treatment regimens, and education campaigns that have helped reduce the transmission of the virus and provide life-saving medication to millions. With the shutdown of USAID, it is feared that these programs may not continue at the same scale or with the same level of funding, leading to a potential resurgence of the epidemic and reversing the progress that has been made in controlling the virus. In addition to healthcare, USAID has contributed significantly to South Africa's education sector, helping to improve literacy rates, create vocational training programs, and increase access to higher education for marginalized communities. Furthermore, the agency has been involved in building critical infrastructure, providing clean water, and improving housing in some of South Africa's most impoverished regions. All of these efforts, which have been crucial in lifting people out of poverty, would be severely impacted by the shutdown of the agency. Many fear that South Africa's progress on these fronts will stall, and it may struggle to find alternate funding sources for these essential services. The broader implications of USAID's closure extend beyond South Africa and affect the global development community as a whole. USAID has been a key player in responding to global health crises, such as the Ebola outbreak in West Africa, the cholera epidemic in Yemen, and the ongoing battle against malaria and tuberculosis. The agency has been instrumental in providing medical supplies, funding research for new treatments, and bolstering the healthcare systems of countries struggling with disease outbreaks. By shutting down USAID, the U.S. risks diminishing its role in global health and leaving the world more vulnerable to future health emergencies. Moreover, the closure of USAID could have serious diplomatic ramifications. For years, the United States has used its foreign aid programs as a tool for advancing its geopolitical interests, strengthening ties with key allies, and fostering stability in volatile regions. The shutdown of USAID could be seen by many countries as a retreat from U.S. leadership, especially as other global powers, such as China and Russia, continue to expand their influence in developing nations. These countries, which have been increasing their investments in global development projects, may see an opportunity to step into the void left by USAID's departure, furthering their own interests in Africa, Asia, and Latin America. At the same time, this decision could strain U.S. relations with international organizations and NGOs that have long worked in partnership with USAID to provide development assistance. Many of these organizations rely on USAID funding to carry out their missions and may find themselves without critical financial support if the agency is dissolved. As these groups scramble to find alternative sources of funding, the effectiveness and scope of their work could be diminished, which would have a direct impact on the people and communities they serve. As this dramatic shift in U.S. foreign policy unfolds, we want to hear from you. What do you think about the closure of USAID? How do you think it will affect global development efforts, especially in countries that rely on U.S. aid? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to stay updated on this important issue. Your thoughts and feedback are invaluable as we continue to explore the impact of this monumental decision on the world stage.